This is Ask the Experts. Here's Curran Bhatia.
I am Curran Bhatia, joined by Ed Latimore. He's a former heavyweight boxer, but there's so much more that we need to speak about, Ed, including your upbringing, everything that you've learned. You're now helping people, teaching people through all your different channels. So first of all, Ed, how are you doing today, my friend?
It's a really good day today. Happy. It's a little cold here, but that's November. I'm in a good mood and all. And also waiting for my son to get here. He's supposed to be born 2 days ago, but he's taking a sweet old time.
Well, congratulations on that big life event upcoming. I know you're also an author. You've written many books, and you have a new book that you're working on, which I want to talk to you about. But let's go back a little bit to the beginning of your journey and your story. I know that one of the things that you've said on your social media, you said teaching people what I've learned from the hood, the ring, and everything in between. So I'm sure there's a lot of lessons there. So what was your upbringing like, and what did you learn?
Man, I'm a typical stereotype, man. I'm born to I knew who my dad was, but to say he had a hand in raising me is just inaccurate to the point of being dishonest. So my mom was very much a single mother. We lived in the projects. We were on welfare a lot of times, and then everything that comes with that, the crime, the abuse, trauma. It was a really. I think about my childhood. I've been thinking about my childhood a lot lately because I'm having a kid of my own, and I'm just like, man, there's a lot that like really can be awful, and it was awful for most of it. I wasn't really happy when I look back, especially at least not until I turned 14. And at 14, I started going to a different school in a different part of town, and really got to meet the people who are my friends to this day.
And I know that your journey led you to boxing, right? What was it about boxing that appealed to you, and when did you find boxing and how?
So this is funny, man. I didn't start fighting until I was 22, which is like, I mean, now heavyweights can start a little later because they mature a little later and the body takes a little long to develop for it to be that size. But I started fighting because somebody said to me, I dropped out of college the first time I went, and I was like on this big anti-college kick. And I was just telling everybody how much it sucked and how stupid it was. And one of the people I happened to say that to was this woman who was the mother of the girl I was dating at the time. And she happened to be a professor at a university. And so she said to me, she's like, all right, let's say you're right. And the college is a waste of time. What have you done with your life in the past 4 years other than show up here and eat my food? And then she kicked me out. And I thought about it and I said, she's got a really good point. I don't have any sweat equity in anything in my life. And there's not, all I'm doing is I was working at Starbucks. And I said, that's all I'm doing. This is lame. So I looked at two avenues to go. I was going to either join the Army or box. And I chose boxing because YouTube had just started getting big. And you could look up and see fights. And I was like, oh, there's something I could do. How bad could it be getting hit, right? And so I decided to do that, man, because we just started invading Iraq. And I was like, I made it. I survived the hood. I'm not going to walk into that. So let me stay away from that. So that's how I started fighting, man. I found an amateur gym, and I had some early successes and some good intuition about some things and some moves because, as you know, it's not just about how good you are. That certainly helps, but it's really about making sure you're with the right people in the right place and deciding, because a lot of times you got to make a choice between A and B, and you can't see the future. You can just look at the probability, and a lot of times you got to have courage that you're making the right decision. And I think I made almost all of the optimal decisions I could in my career for how long it was and when I started and what I was able to do with it.
You found boxing, and that felt like the right decision instead of going to the Army at the time. But I just wanted to back up a little bit on something you said. You said you survived the hood, right? So when you look back now, you've obviously described it as a difficult time, and I'm sure it was. When you look back now, what were some of the things that you did to help you survive? What were some of the tactics you used? How did you survive that situation?
So you got to remember, when you're a kid, you're not thinking so much, I'm trying to survive. You're thinking, I don't like this place. I don't like these people. I don't feel comfortable here, etc. Right? And what you're really trying to do, which I guess is synonymous with survival, you're just trying to alleviate discomfort and find a place to be a kid. And you don't even know you're doing that second part because you don't know what being a kid is. The big thing for me before 14, I immersed myself in video games and books. I didn't quite know, but I had an inkling that building a social life in this area wasn't going to work for me because I didn't want to be like anyone around me. I didn't have much in common with them. But my mom tried to push us to socialize and play, and I'm like, why? Every time we spend time out here, man, something go down crazy. We get into a fight, or there's nobody around here is moving the way you want us to move. So it's all parents want their kids to be good, and for whatever reason, I was fortunate enough to be able to recognize that kind of inconsistency. So I stayed away. When I started going to a different school across town, I'm pretty sure, I think about this a lot. I don't think I think I spent one holiday at home, but for the most part, I spent all of my time. I played. That's when I took up sports, and then when it wasn't a sport, I took up the musical and being on the stage crew, so I didn't have to go home. And then I had a job. I mean, anything, and if there was nothing, I went to a friend's house. I had a friend who lived across town. I'm so blessed to have encountered these people because they drove me home every day. It was probably a 30-minute drive total for them. And every day they did it. They left it nice upper middle class neighborhood, drove me back to the hood and back home. No problem. Didn't even sweat it. And so like today, I see them all and I'm just, I thank them. And I'll randomly send messages and thank them, really. They invited, they came to my baby shower and everything. There were more, in many ways, more parents to me than my parents ever were.
You went through a lot. You found boxing. And I know another big part of your journey was addiction, right? You said you had an addiction to alcohol. You were able to overcome that. And now you're sharing the lessons that you've learned. And I know that part of it was you lost your shot as an Olympic boxer, and that's when you started to understand a little bit more about your battle with addiction. What was it about losing the shot at the Olympics that made you realize that?
So, first off, that year we got really lucky, man. That's when Michael King was involved in everything, and we ended up with like a second Olympic trials, which is crazy. He had that much money in pool, and I was part of that program out there in Cali where he was putting that together with Charles Martin and Dominic Brazil came out of. So it was a cool time to see that. But when I got recruited to go out there, it was very sudden. Like it was so sudden. In fact, I didn't have any money, but they were paying, and I was like broke for 2 weeks, just living off of whatever I could find. But I was lonely, and I didn't have, like, I had some friends that lived up in Burbank, but they had us down in Carson. And I don't know how well you know LA, but that may as well be another, as far as the distances where I'm from, that's huge. It was like an hour. I was just lonely, man. And I realized in that loneliness that my way to cope and bond, it all dealt with booze. And when I lost my fight, at home or when I won, I would drink, but losing that sucked, because I want to be clear, me losing that fight, ironically enough, against Dominic, is what is it didn't, I didn't feel like drinking after that, right? But it made me think about how a lot of my training was sacrificed because I would drink right after practice or whatever. It made me realize that I didn't have anything to rely on to help me but alcohol, because I didn't have any friends out there, anything like that. It really an event that is taken from, not taken, because it certainly wasn't taken. I got beat straight up. When you miss something, that's when you realize how strong the systems in your life are. Okay, what's going to catch you was there, and I didn't have anything. It's actually like when I think back on it, I actually kind of feel cold, man, because I went back to my apartment in California, and I was just like, what we do now? More drinking. Like it wasn't. There was no friends or anything like that, and I was like, I never want to have that again. And then I didn't stop drinking then because that's part of addiction, right? You might realize it's a problem, but you don't do anything about it. But it's one of those things that sink in your head, your mind, and you start thinking about it, and you can't escape it.
I'm sure it was difficult to overcome that. And I'm just curious if you have any words of encouragement or advice to people who may be listening to this, who are going through their own battles with addiction. Anything that you'd like to share with people going through their own battles?
Yeah, I used to be the guy that would tell you can stop drinking and then spend time around your old friends. And I don't believe that anymore. I think what you have to do, you got to do two things. Now, you don't have to get rid of your friends. I'm not saying that. But you got to take a break because you're going to have to learn how to learn how to be a different person. Because a lot of times, even if we remove the addiction factor, we just talk about society, especially with alcohol. Alcohol is the worst because that's the one we made legal. Is you don't know how to do anything without the booze, and you got to learn how to do that, and you got to learn how to do that without the temptation. So, change your social circle for a little while, and then pick up new hobbies and new ways to be. Do stuff by yourself. Have people meet you for coffee instead of booze. And because what you'll learn, a lot of people are afraid to stop. It ain't because of how people are going to look at them. Because if you think about how some of the crazy stuff you do drinking, it ain't that. And I think a lot of times it's not even a pure addiction in a physiological sense. The thing that keeps a lot of people drinking is that they have no idea how to live without it. And that sounds weird, but it's the truth. And if you can convince yourself you can live without it, and not like, I'm fiending for it, like you're twitching, like, no, I can go to the bar and watch a game. No, not at the bar, but like I can socialize with my friends, right? And my friends still like me and we connect. But there's no alcohol in the picture. And you go, oh, wow, I can do this. That's a baby step. You find a way to entertain yourself. You find something you really like doing besides sitting in a bar and watching football and drinking booze. That's a baby step. You find a way to build respect. That's what fighting did for me 100%, is you find a way to build respect instead of being liked. Because when you drink a lot, it's easy to feel like you're being liked and the man. It ain't nothing, though. It's nothing. But when people start respecting you, little baby steps, these little changes, you start to build a life without it, super easy.
It's step by step, brick by brick, if you will. And it sounds like just like in a negative way through addiction, one thing can lead to another in a negative way. It can also happen in a positive way as you build up personal satisfaction for who you are as a person, your environment, the things you're able to achieve without different types of substances and things like that. Is the message that I'm getting from you, I'm hearing from you, and hopefully that would be helpful to people who may be listening to this. Just take that first step and try to build off that. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your boxing journey. You did turn professional in the heavyweight division in 2013, and you actually worked up your record to 13-0, 7 knockouts by 2016. Around that time, that's a good starting record, undefeated. You've got some knockouts under your belt. Do you remember back to that time? What were your ambitions in the sport of boxing? What were you hoping to do in the heavyweight division?
I think I never had an ambition to be like this world champ. I always wanted to be the best version of myself I could be. Always. And if I did that, I figured everything else would fall into place. Now, I understand what it means to do that in multiple areas. Even the level I got, which we're like, if we're going to like go across the spectrum and look at what I did as an amateur and a pro, I think I'm a legitimate professional athlete. There's a lot of guys that just turn pro and just go, well, like, not at all. Especially now that I'm teaching, you realize how little a lot of people know about boxing. Roger Mayweather said it best, man. Most people don't know shit about boxing. This is true. But at that time in 2016, what I recognized, it was weird because I don't know how to deceive myself. I never got comfortable lying to myself, and I took a look at the future, and I looked at my skill set, where I was strong, where I was weak, and I'm gonna confess something. I remember thinking I really should drop down to cruiserweight because I am 6'1", 215 wet. Like when I was training, when I'm really living and working in the gym, 6'1", 215. That you can't compete. Not today. No way. I wrote an article about this on my site about like the evolution of the heavyweight and why one of the reasons why I stopped. It was 5 reasons, but that was one of them. Is I looked at the size differential and I said, I'm going to go as far as I can. I'm still going to fight. I'm still going to train, and really, how good can I be? And I had a great coach too, who in retrospect, looking at things, right, because it's hard for me to believe the hype. I look at the facts, but he got me to believe the hype, And I thought I'd be able to go and do a lot with my size difference, and I'm fast. I'm very fast, and it helped. But to answer the question, I just wanted to be the best I could and see where that would go.
It's definitely difficult to compete in modern heavyweight boxing with that size differential. Because if you look at someone, for example, like a Tyson Fury, 6'9", Deontay Wilder, 6'7", Joshua 6'6", and all higher in weight. Now, Alexander Usyk's able to do it, but that's in a very elite, skilled fighter who just brings. But even still,
Alexander Usyk is 6'4". Let's not.
UFC 281 is live from New York this Saturday. Get closer to the octagon with DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Right now, new customers can bet $5 on UFC 281 and get $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. Check this out. Right now, everyone can earn up to a 100% boost with DraftKings stepped-up parlays. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app, place a parlay today with 3 or more picks and combine multiple bets like which fighter will win, total rounds, and more. And this honestly is a great card to do so. We got Izzy up top headlining, of course, Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler, Frankie Edgar in action, Dan Hooker in action. I mean, you really can't ask much more from a big UFC card. With payouts bigger than ever, DraftKings Sportsbook is where I go to bet on UFC. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code CURRAN, CURRAN. Throw down $5 on UFC 281 and get $200 in free bets if your fighter wins. That's code CURRAN this Saturday at DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of UFC. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
The average heavyweight height is 6'4" now. And I'm giving you the average. If we look at the median, we'll see that's skewed heavily to the left. And for people who don't know what that means, yes, the average is 6'4", but most people are like 6'6", 6'7", and there are only a few of us who are on the other end. So like, it's not even like, half of the people are going to be taller than 6'4", half of them are going to be under. Nah, I'm more of them are going to be like, it's more like 80% of them are going to be taller than 6'4", and maybe even more. So that height difference was a big deal. And then with that comes because the real issue is the weight. Like the height you can deal with. That's not a problem. The issue is the weight. I fought a guy that was 250. And I'm strong and in shape, man. But if you push the pressure and lean on me, I don't have enough. I don't have the weight behind me to move an extra 35 pounds without a significant expenditure of energy. So it's fun. If I could go back and do it again, I would have dropped the cruiser. I'd have just cut that weight. But it didn't make sense then because the evolution of the game, heavyweight division is the only division you can really make money and not be fighting for a title. And I did everything in the heavyweight. When I got signed by Rock, they signed me as a heavyweight. So I was kind of like, oh, well, here we go.
I'm sure the size differential was tough for you. According to your box rec, one of your opponents was over 300 pounds. So that must have been difficult. And some of the fights that you had over 250 and opponents like that as well. I wanted to ask you about the end of your official boxing career. So we talked about working up your record to 13-0, 7 knockouts. Later that same year in 2016, you took a TKO first round loss, where you were dropped a few times in the opening round and then a draw. So what kind of went wrong there towards the end of your career, and why did you decide to hang up the gloves?
So I don't like saying anything went wrong, at least not with the Trey Lippe fight. Hats off to him. And what's cool about boxing, man? I haven't talked to him recently. I didn't even know he had lost, so I need to reach out and see what's going on. Because I guess he came in looking a little soft, and as far as I knew, man, he was a bit of a disciplined dude. But nah, man, you know what happened? It took me like 6 months to be able to watch that fight, and then I watched it, and I take absolutely nothing away from him. And I look at what the shot that he hit me with, and it's a smart play. I thought a straight right was coming down the middle. I'm positioning, just have my hand there ready. It comes around the side instead, and it's a beautiful shot, right? Like probably right in the ear. I got to watch it again because when I tell the story, even in my memory, it doesn't hurt. I thought I slipped. It was a weird feeling, which I guess happens when your legs go jelly. And he got me fresh and clean early, so I couldn't recover. I had never been hurt like that, never before. So I was like, clenching up was a new thing for me. I couldn't even think about how to do it. So it was a good move on his part to launch that attack, and a good move and a good call on their team because I figured like this. I knew I would never. If on a business decision, turn on a fight, because I know like the big opportunities come when you do things that people don't expect you to do. Like when Devin Haney went over and took the belt from the Australian kid. That's not something a lot of people going to do, but he did it now. He's the undisputed for that. But it doesn't always happen that way. And I said, I'm gonna go for it and do this because if I beat this guy, even if he's only 11-0, it's on Showtime and he's the son of a name. Let me do that. But likewise, they're also like, okay, this guy's 11-0 and I've got a great amateur pedigree and I'm trained by a Hall of Fame coach. It's good for us too. So he showed up and did a great job. And I said to myself when I lost that fight, because you know how the fights go, man. And, we're the first fight of the TV, so and they don't pay you until the fight is over. Not the fight, till the whole event is over. So I'm standing there on the side watching all these fights, just saying like, not afraid to check social media and shit because it was on there. But I kept telling myself it's gonna be the best thing that ever happened to me. But I hadn't made any decision to stop. I didn't even have to make a decision to stop after I lost Willis. I'm not lost. I drew with Willis Lockett in December. But I did say I was going to take time off, finish my degree up because I had like 20-some credits left in my degree, and doing physics and boxing is a lot harder than you would think. So I took some time off. I was in the gym in 2018 getting ready for I had an opponent. They reached out to me. They were going to fly me to New Zealand to fight this guy with a decent record. And looking at him on video, before I showed it to my coach, I thought I could beat him. But I know that fighters are supposed to think that. I showed it to my coach. He thought I'd be able to beat the guy too. Seemed like a great intro to come back on. And I went sparring with this kid, Cassius Anderson, man, hits like a goddamn freight train. And he threw a jab or a right hand. And he hit me in the eye, and I knew it immediately because I suffered the same injury sparring against Charles Martin as an amateur, but I suffered it in the other eye, and I had to get surgery, a blowout fracture. I had the same thing, and you can't fight with that. I had to pull out. And after that point, my coach said to me, because first he was mad because I went sparring with Clay Cass when I asked him. I just drove up to Toledo and did some sparring. After he chewed me out, he was like, "Yo, look at your life. why are you still doing this? Because at that point, that was the same month that happened was I just graduated. I graduated with my degree in physics. That was the first month I made more than 10 grand online. I actually made like 33 grand that month. And he's like, what are you doing? You don't like it? I'll train you if you want to fight, but you're my friend. You don't have to do this anymore. A lot of guys, they gotta be, like, yeah, I know how it is because I was the guy. You gotta be hungry. Otherwise you'll get seriously hurt in there. So that's ultimately what happened. And then I toyed with the idea of coming back, but I had made a decision I would never do heavyweight again. So if I couldn't get my weight naturally to like 215, I wasn't thinking about it. Yeah, I was gonna do that thing where I drop a weight class, but they need to invent that weight class. They were talking about it, the what it was like 202 to 230. They need that because there's a lot of athletic guys, man, that like would make some noise, but I don't care how athletic you are. You're not making noise against somebody that's 6'9" and you 6'1".
There's certainly been talks about the super heavyweight type of weight class due to larger heavyweights, and the disparity of 200 plus can be a huge range. I wanted to ask you, you mentioned you got your bachelor's degree at age 33. You decided to step away from boxing as a professional. And when we see you now, I know you have the Stoic Street Smart newsletter. You're an author, as we talked about. You're active on social media, helping people. So how did you transition into now going through everything you did and helping others and teaching others?
So, man, I'm a natural teacher, man. I'm really happy. I think everyone should find something they love as much as I love teaching. And I'm not just saying that. For example, when I lost the fight, you know how the promoter game is, man. Before I got home, I had a letter that was FedEx overnight, let me know I was done, right? That they would cut my contract. So I needed a way to make money, and I started tutoring high school kids in math and physics. And it was great because anyone that's smart enough to do that typically has a job, so I could charge a premium. This was a school district with good money. And I did that for a little while. And to reach the point where I didn't have to do it for money. It was really just like, okay, I'm gonna drive and teach these kids, but the 50 or something hour they pay me, we'll go to dinner or something with that, right? But I kept doing it, man, because I really just like breaking things down. It's the same thing I'm doing now at coaching boxing a little bit. I'm not like a full-time coach working with a fighter, but I'm there tweaking mechanics and showing people things, insights you only get when you do it for a while. Because anybody could be a coach, man. You just throw something over your shoulder, post some videos, and boom, you're a coach. But I just love to break things down. And that's what the writing and the teaching allows me to do. I was writing, I started my website 2012. And it had just been writing the whole time because it's really important to me. Well, it helps me organize my thoughts, first of all. And the other thing it helps me do is that I take something, I put it out there, and they get it, because I think I've had a fairly unique life, right? Certainly an instructive life if you you take the lessons and use them. So I try to polish them and make them usable presentation-wise with the writing style and the craft. And that's where that comes from. And if you notice, I'm big on Twitter. Not on Instagram Instagram is getting bigger, but like not YouTube. I mean, because I like writing. I'll probably do some YouTube stuff, especially as I move into promotion for a book and create content, because I notice it's another way to absorb. I'm not so arrogant as like, oh, you're not gonna read or you don't get any of this wisdom. Like, nah, man, I'm a teacher. It's whatever, man. I got a mold that I'm trying to put out to the mediums that are available.
You've had many pivots throughout your life. We talked about the difficult upbringing. We talked about the alcoholism. You're sober since age 23. You got your bachelor's degree at age 33. And I just wanted to even get your thoughts on that in terms of timeline, right? If you follow Steve Harvey on Twitter recently, he talked about his not getting his big break until he was 40 years old. Another really great quote I've seen is from Ricky Gervais, the creator of The Office. And he said he got a proper job at 28. He gave it up to try comedy at 38. He tried to get fit and healthy, or he did get fit and healthy at age 48. And what he said was, it's never too late, but start now. And I'm just wondering if you echo that sentiment as well.
Man, not only, and just like minor correction, my sobriety date, I got sober at 29. 2013, December 22nd, 2013 is my sobriety date. So however long ago that was, or however old I was then, because It started to get hard to remember. I think that, yeah, here's the way I describe it, man. And some people have no acceleration in their life. It's all velocity, and they might be high speed or low speed. This is the physics analogy. You get velocity. If it's constant, you're not getting any faster or slower. You're just moving at the same pace. I take a slice of your life from 38 and 28 and overlay them. They don't look any different. You're moving at the same pace, doing the same shit. But if you have a little bit of acceleration, I look at your life at 28 and 38, it's going to look different because you get a little faster each year. You move a little, you put a little more distance between you and everyone else that was moving at your pace. You'll pass up people who don't have any acceleration but started with a higher velocity, okay? That is the essence of this. And really, all that is being willing to do something new, do something you've always wanted to do. I think it's a shame that people let time and age be a limiting factor. Like, obviously, if you're like 80, man, you might have to chill out. That's it. You just missed the boat. But you might get 20 more years.
if you didn't make it before then, you didn't make it in your 70s, you can make it in your 80s. No reason
absolutely
to think you can't. And one thing that I wanted to ask you about was, I think a lot of people suffer with imposter syndrome when they want to try something new. And there's something that you tweeted out which resonated with a lot of people. You said, someone with half your IQ is making 10x as you because they aren't smart enough to doubt themselves. And that tweet, I think a lot of people resonated with that tweet. You can see, it was shared and liked a bunch of times. It was quoted in different places. So let me ask you this. How do we not doubt ourselves?
Well, you got to remember something, man. I'm a stoic and really in some ways a fatalist. I'm optimistic, but I'm realistic is the best way to put it. I know that I'm going to die one day. No matter what, we going to the same place, man. Okay. So what do I get, right? I get like 70, 80 years on average to do something cool. And it's my life. One of the things that, one of the cool things about having a messed up childhood is you don't carry any reverence for your parents and family. So you're able to really think independently of that influence, which for a lot of people is the strongest influence. I say that to say a lot of people make decisions based on people who ain't got to live their life. Like I never cared what my mom wanted for me. Part of it because I just didn't. I mean, she was all right. I was not my mom's biggest fan, right? But I also knew that her wanting it, if everything goes well, I'm going to outlive her. And for me to do stuff based on what she wants, that's silly. I got to live with my life. So all this comes together. You have to live based on what you want, knowing you're going to die. And most people, they're not thinking about you. And if they are, they're all going to die too. Right? So there's nothing to hold you back. There's nothing to make you think you should be used, and you don't got a lot of time. Remember, 70 years is not a long time at all, man. Like, to put it up, I'm 37. That means I've been on this planet almost 4 decades, man. If middle age is what it really should be, I'm middle age, right? It ain't got nothing, it's not your 60s or your 50s and 60s because people ain't living on average to 100 and 110, So that's my advice to that, man. You just got to take action and remember you ain't got a lot of time and no one cares, but you got to live with your life. I just could not, and I hated it because I have had to try and live that way. I could not live knowing I could do more. I could have more and be more. It just wouldn't work. That's why I'm working on the next book because I know I have to do that. What else would I do? Just tweet a bunch on social media? Yeah, that's gonna be cool. And it works, but it's just being good enough, you know?
It's amazing what people can achieve when you remove that self-doubt. It's sometimes it can just be the person that's looking back at you in the mirror that's the one holding you back. And when you can get past that, great things can happen. It's almost like the fear of starting something new can be scary, but then you have to think about the fear of looking back one day that you didn't do that, and that could be much worse. You've had a very unique journey to get to where you are now, and you're able to help people now, and you're able to create content. If you could go back, would you change anything about your journey?
Would I change anything about your journey, man? You know what I always say about regret? It's funny you say that. I say, you know, people say, "Oh, I got no regrets, no regrets." I'm like, man, you foolish shit. Because what they mean to say is they have no regrets because they like where they are. They like the outcome, and they think somehow that they would not be able to have the outcome, the same life, be the same person if they changed something in the past. What I always like to say, to add a little more nuance and precision to the point, is I have no regrets about the outcome. But boy, if I could change some parts of the process. And I know that's impossible, but what would I change? I hated where I grew up, man. I really did. I wish I could have been born. So many times I wish I could have been born to a different family. Even now as an adult, I think about how I just don't have that bond, the connection. I'm making that with my family, with the family I'm producing now. I wish I didn't have to go through the things with alcohol. Because here's the thing: a lot of people are forgiving. If you get in front of your problems before like the law has to or something like that, like something irrevocable or irreversible happens, people will forgive a lot of stuff if you're serious about it. But there's always people who don't. And you'll never know if you'd have been friends if you wanted a drunk asshole one night. So I have regrets about that. I wish I would have started fighting earlier or fought at a later weight class naturally. I do. I'm not going to lie about that. But to bring a bow and put a bow on all of it, I know that all those experiences are responsible for me here. So with the precision, sure, those three things, I really wish they could have been different, but I appreciate what I have now because of them.
And what I hear there from the tough upbringing that you had and where you did have to grow up, I think anyone who is listening to it, to this, you could probably be grateful for the position that you are in. If you have an iPhone in your pocket, you have a lot of wealth that a lot of people in the world do not have, and you have a lot of tools and things available. And if you can be grateful, I think, you know, that can really shift your mindset, and a lot of really good things can happen from that. Not to take away from the difficult challenges that are
right
there, but I think that can help the mindset part of it. Yeah, go ahead.
I think one of the worst things I hear when I talk about gratitude, I'm like, man, you got to be grateful because, you know, someone else is without. And they're like, what's that got to do with me? And I'm like, that's the problem. And that's why you have nothing. I really believe that because it's very hard it's very hard to not make progress, to be stuck. If you recognize the beauty and wonder of life. But if you have a cynical approach, like, why should I feel good about that guy having less than me, or could be in a worse position? That's got nothing to do with me. This still sucks. Well, first of all, this still sucks. And for whatever reason, you're not motivated enough to change. So you need a different way to look at this problem. And I think it's a big deal, man. That gratitude is huge. Even when I was in a shit position, I was grateful. I'm more grateful now, but I was grateful then because I you know, you grow up around that shit, and you see how much worse it could be. You know, my mom wanted a crackhead, for example. That's the first thing that comes to mind. My mom wanted a crackhead. Yeah, I seen her get arrested. She wanted a crackhead. Okay. We never got evicted. I saw a lot of kids get evicted. We never got evicted. Okay. I didn't get into hard drugs. I saw a lot of people ruin their lives on hard drugs. I picked up booze, which is just as bad. But I got control of it. So you're always looking for ways it could be better. You know, even when I got knocked out, right? I sat there thinking, you know, I can go do other things. And, you know, it wasn't all the things I can do now, but I had real options in my life. Like how many guys basically lose their source of income in the fight game and they're able to go make more money doing something else, working less hours. Tutoring's great, man. $50 an hour, you work six to 8 hours a week, man, and you make a real difference. And you make at least as much as the average fighter based on numbers collected by Bloody Elbow.
I'm sure tutoring can beat getting hit in the face, because that's a tough way to make an easy living, as they say.
Yeah,
and I think also just piggybacking off of what you said, one of the things that Tony Robbins always said is that if progress is the key to happiness, right? If you feel like you're progressing in something, you can feel better about what you're doing as long as you're improving and you can see that improvement. To close it out, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the latest book you're working on, whatever you can share, and also where people can find you on social media, how they can engage with your content.
Oh, awesome, man. So the latest book is called, right now the working title is Hard Lessons from the Hurt Business, Boxing Lessons and Building, you know, Grit, Resilience, and Anti-Fragility. And what I'm doing in that book is I'm taking stories from and I'm going to interview fighters, not like, I mean, there's some iconic, like, classic stories, but I want to interview guys now and know that I've talked to, combined with my life experiences to show that fighters have an incredibly hard task ahead of them. I don't think most people appreciate how difficult the life of a boxer is on the amateur or professional level. But yet we're still able to continue to face challenges, knowing that if we get hurt, ain't no health insurance for most of us. I mean, there's that little cheap blanket policy that USA Boxing or any promoter has at the pro level, but you know, if you really get hurt, you ain't going, especially in sparring, it ain't there. The money is effectively non-existent. There's no support or anything like that. The disappointments are huge, but we continue and we persist through fighting. And I think that comes from a certain mindset that is built up from facing difficult things or difficulties, and no other place is better to teach those lessons than boxing. So that's what the book is about. Different difficult lessons we learn, and how you can learn them as well without getting punched in the face. And as far as where to reach me, you know, if anyone's born with the name Ed Latimore after me and they want to do this internet thing, good luck, because I got everything. My website's Ed Latimore. My Twitter handle is Ed Latimore. My Instagram handle is Ed Latimore. My Facebook, Ed Latimore. It's all there. LinkedIn, Ed Latimore. YouTube, Ed Latty 1. Somebody beat me to it somehow. So yeah, just Ed Latimore. I'm everywhere under that handle.
I've always said that we have to respect those who compete in combat, because as we've seen even recently, you're literally putting your life on the line
every time
for our entertainment. Obviously there is financial gain there too for the fighters, but it's for our entertainment, and I respect fighters for doing that. And I respect you for your journey, sharing everything that you just did, for helping people with their journey. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And thank you so much for chatting with me.
Hey man, thank you for chatting with me. Shit, man, you know what?
Thank you for listening to Ask the Experts with Curran Bhatia.